All right, before we get into any more of the details of the NFL draft, specifically what the Commanders ended up doing at 16, Anthony, how much of the draft did you watch? I have to admit, I watched the entire thing. Didn't even mean to, but I'm sitting there at 11:45 or whenever it was over, and I still had it on. But how much did you catch of the first round last night?
Every single minute. I
Love
was
it.
ready to go. I had the YouTube TV app on the phone, had the Bluetooth in, and I had the draft playing. I was very into it. I remember seeing there was a post that they shared in our Believe NFL chat, and one of our colleagues tweeted it out. They were talking about how one year Roger Goodell told Adam Schefter, "Stop tipping the picks. Y'all got to stop tipping the picks."
Mm,
And you could tell that they would refrain from releasing any information, and you had to hold on to that final moment
yeah.
to have the drama of the selection. So I was into it the whole way. I can say I'm thankful for us to be following it and to have done mock drafts and to recognize some of these names and seeing how it affects the team. I can say this: actually, I haven't really been that deep into the draft in a really long time, so it felt good to watch. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did too, and I felt like it went by fast. I know that at the end of the night it ended up being close to 4 hours, but I felt like in between the picks they did a good job with information. I know there were
Yeah.
a bunch of different ways to watch it, but I felt like it went by pretty quick. And with all of the trades that went on to move up and back and down and around, it definitely did not feel like 4 hours. I think that's part of the reason why I ended up staying up till midnight. But yeah, it was entertaining every step of the way. But we could talk for hours about the first round in itself. But we are believing Commanders. So Emmanuel Forbes is the newest Washington Commander right off the bat. Before we kind of dive into what happened around 16, what led up to that, who was or wasn't there, initial thoughts on Emmanuel Forbes.
I was I was elated that the fact that they definitely went DB. I knew it was a position that they needed to address. We went back and forth between tackle and DB, and all signs went to DB. And frankly, I was getting nervous because things were kind of falling in a way that we weren't expecting. I don't think anybody expected that first round to go that way, but I was very excited for that pick. Yeah, I did have a question, as to briefly as to why. But I learned why they chose Emmanuel Forbes. I mean, the guy gets his hands on the football. Coach Rivera said it himself. He's a turnover machine, and that's the type of player that you got to have on the field. So I'm excited to see another 13 show up in the burgundy and gold. Emmanuel Forbes, he's gonna be a hell of a player.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with an SEC defender. I don't care if it's a top dog in Georgia, if it's Alabama or Mississippi State. I mean, those guys, all they do is hit each other in the Southeastern Conference. And so, you got a guy that competed at the highest level that you possibly can at college football. And he
Yep.
was a playmaker. I mean, that's the word that I've seen the most. 14 career interceptions in college, 6 of them he ran back for touchdowns. I mean, sign me up for even half of that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not often that teams get pick sixes, but if you got a guy that is a threat to take it to the house, I'm on board.
Do you got to understand? The Commanders as a team had 9 total picks last season. This guy's taken 6 to the house.
Yep.
FBS record, SEC record.
Yeah.
That you can see what they're building on that defense. That was a big position that they needed to get another guy because now you get to get Kendall Fuller on the inside, St. Juice on the outside, Derek Forrest over the top, who led the team in interceptions with 4. You're
Mm-hmm.
building something that is really going to challenge these talented offenses in the NFC East.
Yeah, it's been a point of emphasis. I mean, Curl, Forrest, Percy Butler, who's a backup kind of special teams guy right now, might have a bigger role this season. St. Juice, as you mentioned, and now Emmanuel Forbes. They have spent some legitimate draft capital on these guys. Emmanuel Forbes, obviously, being the highest one of those. And so, yeah, I think they're building something. They knew they had the defensive line in place, and now they got some playmakers on the outside. It'll be interesting to see if now they address kind of up the middle with linebacker, maybe another safety. But, yeah, you can tell that this was a point of emphasis. You can tell that Ron Rivera's fingerprints were all over this. And I liked how excited they were. Uh, I think there are some question marks that we'll get to here in a second, but I kind of all along, I think we agree that defensive back, offensive line, whoever it was, if this is who they wanted, if this is who they had their sight set on, go get them. And then you know what, the play will do its talking. And if there are questions about it, there are questions about it. But if you went and got your guy, it's hard to be mad at that.
100%, yes. I was thinking that you have to give kudos. You got to clap a round of applause to the way that this front office, head coaching staff, scouting department, they've really done a great job at the draft over the past few years. I mean, you have to really look back and be like, yeah, you know what? They really have. They built out something. I mean, you go back and look at the trade to move back from 11 to 16. The Saints got Chris Olave, very talented receiver. But the Commanders got three starters going
Mm-hmm.
into this season. Three starters. Jahan Dotson had a hell of a rookie season. Brian Robinson, hell of a rookie season. Sam Howell had a hell of a game against the Cowboys, but that's the right team to beat when you're going to come in and try to
Right.
be a starter in this and that, at least in this DC market.
Yeah.
So for the value that they got to miss out on a Chris Olave, this front office, the way that they're navigating the draft, it's amazing. I trust what they're doing. You have to trust what they're doing. They liked something in Emmanuel Forbes, and he's a missing piece to the defense that's much needed.
Well, the big thing you can take from now 3 years, kind of this group picking together, they're going to pick who they want, right? They've got their board and they're sticking to it. We all agree that Jamin Davis pick might have been a head scratcher at the time. There might have been players that you could have gotten there, but if he was their guy, they went and got him. Jahan Dotson, the same thing. They traded back, still had some options there. They went and got him. And so if Emmanuel Forbes is the next on that list, I'm going to trust them because, this is, like you said, they've got a plan. They've got guys in place that are currently working. And if this is what they feel like is the next piece or the piece to take it to the next level, I'm on board with that. So, Emmanuel Forbes, welcome to DC. I saw you give your blessing as the number 13. I hope that he takes it. And hopefully he'll come on the show and we can talk to the two number 13s in burgundy
Absolutely,
and gold.
absolutely. I'd love that. I'd love that. Learn
Yeah.
learn what these young folks be talking about. I don't know
Yeah.
what I don't know what the lingo is. I just kind of go with it. If I could fit in, I'd love to talk with Emmanuel Forbes, man. 1-3 to 1-3. Come holler at me.
Let's do it. So my biggest question
It's a good
is,
idea.
yeah, that was a good idea on your part. My biggest question is obviously we thought that they were going to take a corner and offensive lineman. I don't think it was rocket science. Those were clear, obvious needs. It seemed like all of the top tier offensive linemen were gone by the time they got to 16. However, only one cornerback had been taken. That was Devin Witherspoon, I think at number 5 by the Seahawks, whatever it
Correct.
was. And so
Correct.
that kind of left the pick of the litter for the Commanders in terms of first-round cornerbacks. So they're sitting there at 16. We heard Martin Mayhew say the phone wasn't ringing. Nobody was wanting to move up. Will Levis slid, so it wasn't there like there was a quarterback to come up and get. You kind of got the feel that the Commanders were going to stay at 16. My one question, what about Christian Gonzalez? He felt like one of the consensus overall. It was like him or Witherspoon on a lot of draft boards were cornerback number 1. You and I were texting right before it came down. We were like, oh my gosh, this is lining up perfectly like our mock draft. Christian Gonzalez is going to fall to them. We thought he might go top 10, definitely in the early teens. And then he's sitting there at 16. Kind of two-part question, I guess, that we can mull around here. What were your thoughts that they didn't take Christian Gonzalez? And now what are your thoughts, I guess, essentially, Emmanuel Forbes versus Christian Gonzalez?
I'll start with the comparison between the two. I won't even go there. Again, I'm not gonna. It's not fair to either player, and it's not
Sure.
fair to sit there and say, "Oh well, if this one guy has success over here, they sort of swapped." No, let's not worry about that. At first, I was taken aback. I was like, "This is the one time that it came up." We were like, "Hey, we had this one mock draft that had Christian Gonzalez come up, but we don't think that's going to happen." So we literally talked ourselves away from that one. But to see it happen live, I was like, wow. I even tweeted. I said this has to be Gonzalez.
Mm-hmm.
Gentleman replied and said Forbes, and lo and behold, it was Emmanuel Forbes. And it took me back for a second, but then what kind of made me have a little bit of relief, and I think Commanders fans could connect with this. Shout out to the folks at Bet Online again. Once again, if you haven't checked them out, go check them out. BetOnline.ag. What made me feel comfortable about it was didn't New England move up to 17?
New England was originally before the Commanders. They traded out for, I believe, the Steelers to
They
move up.
traded back to the Steelers, and I think I think they came from like 19. Or
Yeah,
no,
they might have moved
19.
up.
No, 19 was either way. They moved back,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm thinking after the fact that Bill Belichick's probably thinking, hey man, Gonzalez is here. He probably pegged Washington to Gonzalez. He probably wanted Forbes. I'm thinking that there was some posturing in there, and then he went back too far, and all the while Washington had their eye on Forbes, and I just love the fact that that's who they identified. They stuck with it. They didn't waver to what the people say it's got to be Gonzalez or Witherspoon, and you see the drafts of who the cornerbacks are. So there's something about him that they like, and he gets his hands
Yeah.
on the football, and I'm happy that they stuck with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. Like, it's kind of like, I don't know. You don't get the truth in a lot of these situations, but I saw some teams where the clock was ticking pretty low, and I'm wondering, like, are they waffling? Are they wavering? Are they really waiting for a trade, or can they just not make up their mind? To where it sounds like Washington, you know, whether or not Emmanuel Forbes is the guy, whether or not Christian Gonzalez turns out to be the player they should have taken, you got to give them kudos for going and getting their guy. Like, it's kind of like, I get frustrated. My wife would get frustrated with me too. I'm indecisive. But when we're talking about a place to eat, right? Like, at a certain point, I'm like, I don't care. Just pick a place. I'll be happy with whatever it is, as long as you pick
Yeah,
a place and you're confident in it. And that's what it felt like the Commanders did. So it's hard to knock them at all. I know that comparison unfairly will always be there between Forbes and Gonzalez. But I'm with you. It's not time to evaluate either one of them. Neither one of them
yeah,
have even picked a jersey number, much less
yeah,
stepped out on the field.
yeah. Well, I've already given my blessings for Emmanuel to have
Yeah.
13. He can rock it, rock it well. Um, but when you're talking about giving them kudos for getting their guy, I'm got to give love for the fact that I know that it had to be enticing to, like, do we need to jump up a couple of spots? There's a
Yeah.
lot of moving and shaking. Like, there were some draft picks that I didn't expect. Like, I didn't expect Jameer Gibbs to go that high.
Yeah.
And I got to thinking, don't really want to go too far down here, but I thought that I was feeling they thought they could get Bijan if they were back a little bit further. And then Atlanta took. And so it felt like people were ready to make a move to go and get the person that they had as number one. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So
What
it
and
had to be
also,
enticing.
no, I agree with you, because you look at you mentioned a couple of teams, like we thought we had seen, the Lions picking a corner. Could have seen the Packers. I mean, they always go defense. Could they have taken a corner? The Steelers
Mm-hmm.
move up to that Patriots spot. Are they going to get somebody to go opposite of Minka Fitzpatrick? The Jets are right before the Commanders. I'm with you. I'm kind of thinking like, ooh, do they need to move up or risk missing out on, like, maybe not just one, but maybe two guys here? I'm
Yeah.
with you. I think staying pat was the way to do it. I'm assuming that they had a plan in place, at 16, and at 16 if their guy wasn't there. So, yeah, you'll never know exactly how this shakes down. Like, you're not ever going to get the
Yeah.
full truth, but I think that they played it perfectly right. And I think that the staying pat was the way to do it. And I think they got a guy that they love, and that's all you can ask for at the end of the day. Um,
Commanders fans are going to be happy. I know.
uh,
I just promise. I
Me
know it.
too. One thing I was very excited about. So there are two parts to this, and I want to talk about Jalen Ramsey and how he kind of fits into this pick. One thing I saw was that somebody compared his athleticism, Jalen Ramsey's RAS, raw athletic score, whatever. It's kind
Mm-hmm.
of popular for prospects, and it was about, I mean, like, to the decimal point, about the same as Christian Gonzalez. So I'm sitting there
Hmm.
thinking, I tweeted out an upside down smiley face. I'm like, did we just pass on Jalen Ramsey? However, the Jalen Ramsey, the all-pro, the stud, the guy that is arguably the best corner in the league. He went out of his way to tweet about Emmanuel Forbes going to the Commanders. So if you got a guy that is at the top of his game tweeting about another player, a young player being drafted to your team, that makes me like the pick even more.
Yeah, you get an immediate stamp of approval from Jalen
Yeah.
Ramsey. Absolutely, yeah. You made the right pick. I mean, real gonna respect real. You know what I mean? Like you can
Mm-hmm.
look across the room and be like, that guy can play. He's good. You know, and shoot, Jalen gonna have to work even harder because he's got these young dogs coming in that are trying to
Yeah.
chase him and trying to be the next Jalen Ramsey or make a name for themselves. Really, everybody's trying to get their own island, their own real estate. You know what I mean? So, Emmanuel
Hey,
Forbes is ready to make an impact.
there are a bunch of islands. There's only one Forbes list, so that's gonna be
Ooh,
the one to go for these days.
ooh! I can just see that, man. Look, okay, Emmanuel Forbes. Here's a free one for you. Right, it's called the Forbes list. Um, you just gonna have the list of the receivers that you just lock down every week, and that's the
Mm-hmm.
Forbes list. Ooh, and then
Love it.
yeah, I don't know.
They tweeted out the Forbes, or this was from the Commanders themselves, so they're already on top of it. They got a lot to work with, and if this guy picks off Jalen Hurts twice in their first matchup with the Eagles to seal a game, there you won't hear the end of it.
No,
And I'm excited about it. We talked about in our lead up that it's just so exciting to see these guys' dreams come true, and it's going to be fun to continue to watch tonight and into the rest of the weekend. But Emmanuel Forbes, special place. He is the Commanders' #1 overall draft pick in 2023. I can't wait to watch him. And like you said, maybe we need to get a chat between the two 13s and kind of connect the two generations as we go into a new chapter.
God, y'all make me sound so old when you
No,
talk
no,
about
no, no, no.
connecting generations, like an old guy, just an alien, just teleports in, and then
Well,
I tell you about the future or the past or whatever.
no, what it is I realized the year 2010 in my head, I'd be like, that's 2 years ago. And that's 13
Yeah,
years ago. I mean, what in the world?
yeah. Oddly enough,
But
well, there you go. You
uh,
can see it.
yeah,
You know what
the
I'm saying?
1-3 is always being repped. It's in my Twitter handle. I'm a 13 guy too. So it's just the theme of the podcast today. And I think it's a good sign for things to come for Emmanuel Forbes and for the Commanders. So we're gonna break down the rest of the draft over the weekend. Tons of picks still to come, tons of great players still available, guys that had were mocked in the first round still available. So we'll break
Yeah.
all that down at some point over the weekend. But the first round pick definitely gets a special treatment. So any more closing thoughts on the Commanders pick or anything crazy from the first round?
Man, just briefly, I got to give a little love to D'Amico Ryans over there. He comes in
Mm,
making this statement out of the jump. That's how he's aggressive on the field with his coaching, with how his defense attacks other offenses. And shoot, he's saying, I'm going to trade back up to 3 and get my guy on defense as well. That's an aggressive play, trying to make a quick jump up the AFC South. Shout out to D'Amico Ryans, Houston Texans. You're going to have a good season.
you got your quarterback, and you arguably got your quarterback of the defense. That's all. I mean, they could wrap it up for the draft and still feel pretty good about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So a few guys are sliding. I'm sure we'll kind of break down the draft overall, maybe have some of our overarching themes that came down from it. Not as many quarterbacks went in the first round as I thought. I thought we were looking at least 5 and only 3 go. So that'll be something to look at and be intriguing as the draft rolls on. And, of course, we'll cover it all. Believe in Commanders. Believe the entire network did a great job. Joe DeLeon breaking down every pick. Jumped on with them. So you can go see my initial reaction right after Emmanuel Forbes was picked. They like to pick. So that's always good when other guys like to pick. So great stuff, great coverage. It'll continue all this weekend and into the weeks to come. So stick with us. Follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, and on TikTok. We'll put all these videos and different things up. It's exciting. New players on the team, and the future is unfolding right before you. So I'm excited about it. And stick with us, and we'll bring it all to you.
Yes, indeed. You can check us out on TuneIn Radio, SiriusXM, Stadium, all your favorite streaming platforms. And there's also Believe TV and Believe Football. I watched it. There's a few different, streaming apps that you can watch the free TV, and it's really cool because you actually get to see us right there. Some of our other shows, football based, some of the other amazing shows that are out here on this network. So go check us out over there. And also make sure you guys slide on over to betonline.ag. Use our code BLEAV and you're going to get a 50% welcome bonus. That is going to help you place bets on NFL futures because I'm really excited. I'm going to do a little looking and see what are the odds today off of favorites in the league. So that'd be interesting to see. But go check that out, folks. And thank you for tuning in and share this with a family member, share it with a friend, and we will see you on the next episode of Believe in Commanders. Y'all have a good one.
Be good.